So I've been reading Shipping Creative Work by Seth Godin recently, and it's a pretty good book. And he's actually the author of the book This is Marketing, and I just kind of have been getting into the topic, right, of doing creative work and how is that meaningful or how is it going to be effective, right? And I've had a variety of different approaches to that. I've had the approach of just making work that I thought was interesting and that was an expression of who I am, and I think that I still think that that's the way to go. But I also have done work that has just been kind of more just doing things for like a utilitarian kind of purpose, right? So, like for instance, I've done some digitizing media. I'm looking at doing some photographing artwork. I'm looking at various different things where I am using my creative abilities, but in a more a service-oriented way. And that's something that I think a lot of us don't necessarily see as much of a, I mean, it depends on the type of person you are, right? Like some people see that as the only way to work, is doing something that's useful to someone and is just kind of a routine task. And some people see it as something where you should do what is truly your passion, otherwise you shouldn't do anything at all, right? I think there's different ways to look at it. I think you can combine the two, and that's kind of something that I've been working on over a long period of time, and it's been something that hasn't been easy for me to do, honestly. When you're doing passion-based work, a lot of times you will wind up with at least less money than you might want to make, and that may not always be the case if you make it big, quote unquote, or just, happen to be wildly successful with your work, then yeah, that can change. But a lot of times you'll find yourself doing passion-based work and then you give it a little bit longer and you start to get into that same type of craft. Like for me, photography is one of those things, right? I started doing photography of stuff like this, like what's behind me, golden hour kind of stuff, the sun going down, and it turned into other stuff, right? Like just like videography for different events and stuff like that. A lot of editing that's kind of a pain in the butt. Stuff like that, or artwork. People want me to photograph their artwork, and I'm starting to look at that. So just things like that, where it's like you do one thing and it's like a passion-based thing, and then you start to get into that thing and it becomes more work. Music can be something like that too. For me, I have been doing music all my life, but the more I do it and the more I want to do it for work, the more it becomes just that, work. Doesn't mean I don't like it. I love it. I still love it. I'm still obsessed with it. I'll sit there and look at guitars. I'll look at basses and stuff like that. I'll want to learn new stuff. I'll sit and listen to people and their playing styles and stuff like that, and I'll get into it. But the more I do it, it's kind of like a task. Like right now I've got to go practice for a project. It's a really cool project. I'm excited for it. But I've got to spend the time and I've got to get it just right. And then that's going to be something where I'm putting in this particular case, I'm paying dues. So I'm actually doing something where I'm kind of just putting my foot in where I think it might count. And in other things I do, where I'm doing music, I can actually make money at it. And that's a different story. So it's like, either way, I'm still putting in the work and I'm making sure that I do a really good job at it so that I can justify, my presence in the situation. So if you're doing any kind of creative work, just think about that. Like, what happens when you follow your passion and it becomes work? Great question. I think it's an important thing to consider, because a lot of times people do follow their passion. Even like famous musicians become famous, and what do they have to do? They got to go tour. It's work. So that's a thing that I think a lot of us don't necessarily consider when we think about that, if we're like a passion-based, like creative type, Beautiful. Look at how the sun shines. Anyway, food for thought, and yeah, just think about it. What kind of work do you want to do? Do you want it to be fun? Do you want to enjoy it? Do you care? If it's creative work, does it need to be about a passion? Can it ever turn into work? What if it accidentally does, right? Food for thought.